So what will the next project for the Art of Boat Building be? Well, there's been many questions that have come from you and from myself, and I've spent the last several months sort of pondering what direction I should go. So stick around to the end, because the project might surprise you, because I'll tell you one thing, it surprised me. So last month, I put out a survey on YouTube, and I basically surveyed the subscribers to this channel on what they thought I should build next. So I posed 5 ideas of all boats that I'm interested in building. So the first was a rowboat in the Whitehall tradition. The second was a kayak or a canoe. The third was some type of a boat restoration project. And the fourth was to design and build a classic mahogany runabout. And the last, 5th, was to build an electric launch. Now, all 5 of those projects are something that I'm interested in doing and have been on my build list. So many of you added a 6th option to my list, and that was a dark harbor. Now, as many of you know, it's a sailboat that I really love. I think the lines of the dark harbor are extremely beautiful. But there are a few problems for me, and that is, one, it's a pretty big build. It's much bigger than the Haven. Secondly, it's a full ballast keel, and to sail on a lake here in the Midwest, it's really pretty much impossible. It's really designed for doing some kind of coastal sailing. And the last but not least, and probably the most important, is that it's a sailboat, and I just finished a sailboat. So I'm really interested in doing something other than building another sailboat. So let's explore these 5 options in depth and learn a little bit more about each one of them. So the first boat project I want to tell you about is the Whitehall. Now the Whitehall is a rowboat, and it is generally clinker built or a lapstrake hull. Now, it is a really beautiful boat. It has a really nice, graceful sheer to it. And they come in different lengths. You can get one that would be for 2 rowers or for 1. So the Whitehall that I would build would be probably about 17 feet in length. So the next project would be either a kayak or a canoe, and I would probably concentrate more on a kayak than a canoe. There's so many out there, and I think it's a really great project where you can really express yourself in the design of the kayak and so forth. It's also of interest to me because I have property on this lake, and I can just imagine going out early in the morning and doing a nice paddle along that lake. So that was option number 2, a kayak or a canoe. Well, the third option was to do some type of a boat restoration project. So now I would not take upon a project that's going to go over many years, but I was looking at something that would be about a 9-month project. So many of you may remember that back about 4 or 5 years ago, while taking the yacht design class out at the Wooden Boat School with Paul Gartside, I began designing a classic runabout. So I pulled these plans out, and maybe that's what I should do next. Well, having property on a lake and thinking about what it would be nice for a nice evening cruise with a bunch of my friends, I came across a launch, and I thought, well, that's really the perfect lake boat that you can have maybe 8 people in this oval cockpit going out for a casual cruise. Now that, coupled with the idea that I've really been interested in electric propulsion, as many of you know from past episodes. Well, luck may have it that a year ago in 2023 at the Wooden Boat Show, one of the lectures was given by Evelyn Ansell, the curator from the Herreshoff Museum in Bristol, Rhode Island. I had a nice time chatting with Evelyn, and having met her on a couple of other occasions before, we talked about Herreshoff electric launches. Earlier that year, Evelyn had written an article in Wooden Boat magazine, and this is number 191, and it was earlier in the spring, in March and April of 2023. So this article, she talks about the history of the Herreshoff electric launches. And in this article, it talks a lot about the different plans and designs, and that they're all available at that are stored at MIT and all have been digitized, even his notebooks about the launches. So as you can see in a picture like this with the plans, that Evelyn helped me identify a boat that was about the right length, which would have been about 21 feet long. And you can see how it has this beautiful oval cockpit in there. So I was really intrigued by this, and I thought, well, how nice would it be to build a Herreshoff style launch that has an electric motor even when it was originally built. So the results are in, and to my surprise, the two that I thought might be higher on the list were the bottom one was the Whitehall, which only got 10% of the votes, followed very closely by the electric launch at 11%. So the top two vote getters were the designing the classic runabout at 36% and a boat restoration at 27%. And those two were then distantly followed by a kayak or canoe. So it's quite turned around in the way that I thought that the survey would go. Well, in addition to some of the survey results, I also took into consideration some of the comments that all of you had written. Now, some of you had written about kayaks. Kayaks are really a great beginner's boat to build. And so this, for example, like this comment where it suggested building a kayak to start out slow and build from there. So in addition to that, there were several comments about runabouts, and in particular, Lyman's. So this particular one, he talked about doing a Lyman project as a restoration. And one of the very first comments was this comment where he talked about a Lyman as being a great project. Now, that was followed up by a comment by another viewer that said, that sounds like a great idea. Well, that viewer is Ann Bryant, and her channel is From Pine to Palm, which you can see here. So Ann and I have started a conversation about talking about Lyman's. You may remember Ann from Acorn to Arabella. Ann also helped in producing the launch of Skylark. Lyman boats are renowned for their quality, durability, and timeless style. The company was established in 1875 by Bernard and Herman Lyman in Cleveland, Ohio, which later moved to Sandusky, Ohio in 1928. It quickly gained recognition for producing high-quality wooden boats that could withstand the rigors of the Great Lakes. Though the company ceased producing wooden boats in 1970s, the legacy of the Lyman boats endures, with many examples lovingly preserved and cherished by collectors and aficionados. Ann has secured a 1957 outboard Lyman. Ann and I are going to do a collaboration on restoring her to her former glory. The boat is in basically structurally sound shape. And as you can see by these images, that this barn find has been long neglected and in need of some TLC. Once Ann gets the boat in my studio, we will be able to fully assess what will be needed for the restoration. The build will be covered on my channel and on Ann's channel, From Pine to Palm. I'm very excited about the build and this collaboration. It should be a lot of fun. The other thing that I need to mention that has also transpired in the last couple of months, and that is Chesapeake Lightcraft, who many of you know build kayak kits, has contacted me and asked me if I would be interested in building a couple of kayaks and filming that for an informational videos for their website. So, coupled with those two projects, the next thing that's coming up is the main project will be to restore Anne's Lyman. Now, while we're waiting for her to get everything put together, she needs to get the trailer in good order, and it needs to be towed out from Maine here to Illinois where we can start working on it. So in the meantime, I'm going to build these kayaks that Chesapeake Lightcraft sent me, and there are two kayaks. One is a strip planked boat and the other is a stitch and glue boat. So those two kayak projects will be first, and then we'll start working on the Lyman. And in the meantime, many of you have asked about more videos of Skylark sailing, and also some maintenance issues and things like that that will come up with the sailboat. So hopefully the next video will be about getting the dock prepared so that I can sail Skylark out at the lake. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you the next time on The Art of Boat Building.